Ms. Wilma Cruikshank, widow, an alumnus of the University of Oxford and a contemporary of Mr. Charles Darwin. She is best remembered for being the first woman to pen a complete description of a fossilised dinosaur, the Megalosaurus. In her spare time, however, she was also a woman who insisted on dining on everything, including roast hedgehog, potted ostrich, panthers, porpoises, and puppies.
Mrs. Carshalton!
Welcome back.
Thank you. I've done nothing but talk about my first decadent dinner party of roasted penguin and seagull pie with thyme and rosemary. You are the toast of my little Darwin circle. I've regaled them with your triumph at the Upton Snodsbury County Fair, with your King Louis XII shrunken heart. Mrs. Putney is utterly green with envy. I know I'm early, and I hope you don't mind, but I couldn't keep away.
A gift for me? How very generous.
It's a little inspiration for your delectable platters.
Thank you. How is Mr. Carshalton?
Oh, I'd rather not. Dreadful business.
Oh, trouble at home?
He has a little bit of crumpet on the side.
Without tea?
He's taken another woman on a Tuesday.
Naked on a Tuesday?
I really wouldn't mind so much if she was a little more on the attractive side. She mortifies my sensibilities when in a state of undress.
Well, you're a stronger woman than I, Mrs. Carshalton.
She's a vegetarian, sometimes a vegan. It's an outrage I simply can't bear. With Mr. Carshalton's lack of good judgment, well, I'm sure you understand what it's like to keep a guarded family.
You have been dishonoured, Mrs. Carshalton. Skin the rat alive and deliver him to my kitchen! My sense of humour sometimes surprises my closest and nearest.
Last time, I recall our unfinished conversation about your Reginald. He's very devoted to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Carshalton.
Please don't think of me as impertinent. I believe my conversation is directed to your mistress.
Mrs. Carshalton, I already expressed my gratitude to my dear Reginald prior to your arrival and his important role in my life. He's part of my circle, very much by my side.
I see.
No white mongoose!
Did he say white? I can't bring myself to say it. Quickly, what are you going to do about Mr. Carshalton?
Your Reginald must teach my little Derek to play with his trumpet. He's my only nephew.
I meant the fat woman in your bed.
I shall find other ways to amuse myself.
Oh yes, do tell.
I have here a how-to book and blindfold. They arrived in yesterday morning's post.
I'm a little disturbed.
We shall entertain ourselves after your Sunday dinner.
Reginald! Reginald!
I've had a yearning to broaden my horizons and to learn something new. And with Mr. Carshalton's lack of good judgment...
Where are you?
It's only a little blindfold.
Reginald.
Yes, milady.
My dear boy, I think it's time we start refreshments.
I've lost all sight of my senses.
Cocktails.
Since Mr. Carshalton's dalliance, I'm sworn of those things. A little wine, if you please.
Very good.
Mrs Zizou and I once entertained dubious courtships at our grand soirees with exquisite cuisine. Mrs Zizou introduced me to many great friends at our grand soirees throughout the years. Many of our grand soirees were hosted by my dear departed husband, Bert. Poor Bert. He was a good man, my Bert. I yearned for him. Oh, how scandalous to conjure up thoughts of his return. Oh, but I miss him. He was a good man.
Mrs. Zizou.
Mrs. Zizou has an amazing passion for culinary delight.
Might she be interested in my how-to book blindfold?
Darling Wilma, how are you? How is my queen of the Upton Salisbury County Fair?
Mwah, mwah, mwah. Oh, I've had a penchant to conjure up something utterly delectable. Oh, may I introduce you to Mrs. Carshalton? You missed her at our last soiree.
A pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm Miss Cruikshank's #1 fan.
Oh, call me Wilma, please. After all, we are now friends. What a magic.
Oh, he's still a terrible bore. Now, Mr. Zizou and I were discussing taking a trip across the Nile next month, and we think you should come too.
A Nile? That's a fair distance.
The food is frightfully dull. The usual cuisine of choice, including those trays of bacon strips dripping with fat, and those ghastly hordes of Americans stampeding towards trays of fried potatoes and lashings of maple syrup. One would think they hadn't eaten in months.
I will consider it.
There are many more morsels out there for us to discover. Hanging gardens, maundering beasts, exotic things, the like of which you have never imagined. Monty, it's an inspiration. Might do you good to break up the habit and get you out of the trenches.
Yes! Could be an exciting adventure holiday. You have tweaked my interest.
Oh, jolly good. Then it is set. Edwin, organise a second cabin and one of those Sherpa guide people. They're awfully helpful.
Is Mr. Zizou with you?
Of course. I never travel without him. He's my one rock in life, my staple. I couldn't live without him. Oh, I'm terribly sorry, Monty. That was very careless of me.
No matter, it's forgotten.
Will he be coming inside for Sunday dinner?
Heavens, no.
Why is that?
Mrs. Carshalton, men are ghastly outdoor things. Just like cats. Although I can't stand the beastly things. Cats, I mean, men. I adore. And besides, the poor man wouldn't know what to do if he was allowed inside the house. He'd probably mess the whole thing up.
I see.
Best left outside. Keeps them rugged like a finely tuned piano.
Won't he get awfully lonely outside?
I'm not a barbarian. My Edward has Harry to keep him company. He and Harry travel everywhere together. I think I have some photographs from our last holiday. We went to Machu Picchu. Isn't that funny? Someone built an entire city, and then they lose it. That's men for you.
Is Harry your son?
He's our horse. We haven't eaten him yet. He's part of the family.
Your horse?
Well, don't think we get much of a meal out of my Edwin. There's not much meat on the old boy these days.
I was telling Mrs. Carshalton how your Edwin and my Bertie were good friends. Do you remember how these decorated hallways echoed with laughter? Gossip of indiscreet and forbidden relationships flitted off the tips of the tongue of the town. My Bertie, he knew how to throw a party. My little affairs will never hold a flame to his majestic overtones. My Bertie, he encouraged me to follow my passions and create my dining dreams. No man can replace the man who once held my hand and warmed my bed.
Monty, let us follow your passions and create your dining dreams upon a new adventure in our award-winning roasts of hilarious hedgehogs,
Yes.
squashed squirrels, fated foxes,
Potted ostrich.
petrified panthers,
Poised pool pity.
parched puppies,
Marmalade mongoose.
Mongoose. Not mongoose! No! No! No!
No! Not mongoose, Mrs. Carshalton. Do you not know what happened to her, Bertie? And then there was a disastrous outcome from the Upton Snodbury County Fair and the roast dinner's touch.
No, I don't. I'm so sorry. I became caught up with the moment.
I practically had to drag Wilma to the Upton Snodbury County Fair with her award-winning King Louis XII shrunken heart dish. We don't talk about it. But she nearly lost her nerve.
Mandrake has arrived.
Oh, thank you, Reginald. Send him in.
What happened to Miss Cruikshank?
I'm sorry, Reginald. It's my fault.
You mentioned mongoose, didn't you? Mandrake, please follow the sound of my voice.